I am Kristin Werner. I'm a public engagement professional and I've been the coordinator of CollActive Materials.
Hi, my name is Antje Nestler. I'm a science communicator for the Cluster of Excellence Matters of Activity, and I was a principal investigator for CollActive Materials.
And today we're going to tell you about one of the last projects of CollActive Materials, which was a workshop series called Visiting Material Futures.
Yes, and we did get a couple of questions for that, and I'll just start with the first one. Kristin, can you please describe our public engagement project?
Yes. So our workshop series, Visiting Material Futures, the idea behind it was that we take ideas from basic research that is ongoing about materials, novel materials, but also what kind of role materials play in our life. And then in these workshops, explore the possibility for what these materials could become in the future. So the workshops itself were based on imagining different future scenarios and developing prototypes with the participants. And then after the workshops, we put together an exhibition that showed what was happening in the workshops and also the outcomes that were produced. Next question. Antje, who was involved in our project?
There were many people involved. Yes. So we had, of course, us as like moderators of the workshops. Then we had involved different researchers who took the role of explaining their materials, explain what they work with, and giving some input into the workshops, also giving hands-on sessions to get to know the materials. And then, of course, we had our participants, which was a variety of people. It started with designers and interesting parties who are already connected to matters of activity, to the typical Futurium visitor who just likes to go to these Futurium lab evenings. Then we had people coming to our workshops who were interested in the certain materials, so someone who's interested in tree bark, for example, or mycelium. So yeah, they came with lots of different interests, but they all connected during the workshops. Okay, next question for you. At the start of your project, what were you most curious about?
I was really curious about how we could create a space there in Futurium Lab, in the workshop area, where everybody feels very comfortable to bring in their own experiences.
Yeah, that was really interesting. I was very curious about the method in general. Like as a science communicator, for me, it was very interesting to see, can we use this method? What advantages does it have? Maybe what doesn't work also. So speculation as a mode of science communication or public engagement was, I think, what I was most curious about. Should we go to the next one? All right, let's see. What is speculative design and why did you choose speculative design for this project?
It's a relatively new approach to design where it's not about designing solutions or designing devices, but it's about imagining what the future could look like and then translating that future scenario into everyday objects that kind of act as keys to these futures.
Especially speculation was very interesting for us because we do speculate every single day. So it's something that comes very natural to us as human beings, but we usually don't do it in a kind of structured way. We just think about things. And in our workshops, we try to give these thoughts and ideas some structure to give them a direction that we can work with and also the researchers can work with afterwards.
Yeah. Who did you want to engage?
Oh, that was very interesting. So in the beginning of the whole project, we were trying to engage audiences that we haven't reached so far, especially. We were thinking about school children. We also went to elderly homes. You just want a lot. Engaging a new audience and trying out a new method. So we stuck a little bit more to the audience that was easy for us to reach, which was kind of the design community. But since we're talking about a workshop series at Futurium, so we also had the possibility to reach the people that are already, visiting the Futurium and were kind of in this, let's call it a bubble. And we were kind of surprised to what kind of people actually attended the workshops, because it was very diverse. We had pensioners, like little elderly people with lots of knowledge they brought into it, but then we had also teenagers as well, lots of students, so there was a very interesting mix. Designing interaction. What kind of interaction did you want to enable?
It was really important to us that we create a space in which everybody feels comfortable of bringing forward their own ideas, but also, as I said, their values, their wishes, their worries. And for that, the most important thing was that we don't create like a hierarchy of knowledge in some way, that like academic knowledge is not necessarily, at all means, like more valuable than everyday knowledge or professional expertise from like individual people. So what we did was that we based these workshops on a lot of like hands-on experiences. So people could interact with the materials on their own terms, and we created a structure that would like gently guide them through the workshop without restraining them too much. And other than that, we left them a lot of space. Like they were working quite individually, like in groups of up to 5 people, creating a future scenario based on some of the research we presented at the beginning of the workshop, and then creating a prototype or an artifact from this future to capture their ideas in a more tangible way.
You know, these oyster mushrooms, they were able to dissect them, to put them on agar plates. They're actually working with the material that we brought just to get a feeling of it and actually experience the material before even think about what can be done with it.
And I remember that when we were planning these sessions, we were quite, worried, might be a strong word, but we were concerned that maybe it would be too complex for people or that they don't know where to start imagining the future. But then in the workshops, they just ran with it. They were like, okay, no, please stop talking to me because we have an idea and we have a short amount of time and we're into prototyping right now. So here we go.
So what were the outputs?
We created, or the participants in our workshops co-created some really, really cool prototypes inspired by the research that is happening at Matters of Activity.
This was, for me, a very interesting example because we have a research group working on the waste material tree bark and how you can use it. And this orthesis has been developed as one of the prototypes. And there was such a cool aha moment for the researchers as well, because they never thought about that. They decided that clothing wasn't, it was nice, but it didn't have the right feel. But for these kind of applications in like this medical field, it was the perfect material for it. So there was really, really interesting to see in what kind of thought direction the participants went, but also how it came back into the research, because it was actually an idea that they never thought about before. So that was very interesting for us to see. Okay, next question.
Antje, what was the biggest challenge you had to overcome?
We wanted a lot. So, we wanted to try a new method with, speculation or speculative design as a new approach for science communication. So that was this one whole new thing. But then in the beginning, we also wanted to reach audiences or participants that we've never reached so far. And that was just a lot to ask. So I would suggest for someone working in a project like this to just make it easier for yourself to concentrate on one new thing at a time. So a next step would be with all the experiences that we gathered is to then attract a new audience that we haven't reached yet. I think something very feasible, and it's not something that we can't do. It was just a lot to do for the little time we had. What is the most unexpected outcome?
There were a couple, but one of them was that there was a target group involved in this that we didn't even think about. And those were the guides of the Futurium. So these are the people that are in the exhibition, that guide people through, that give them like short explainers. And we didn't design the exhibition for them, obviously, but we got a lot of really positive feedback from them.
I think in general, talking about unexpected audience, it's also the unexpected expertise that you have in these workshops. So I was very, very impressed by the results. Also the researchers were. There were so many amazing created ideas and prototypes, and also the prototypes in general. I never expected them to be this far developed. I was so impressed by what a group of people can actually manage to do in just 3 hours. That was so impressive, and I've never expected that.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. What are you most proud of?
Oh, I'm proud of many things, but one was the speculation guide that we've written together for researchers, but also other public engagement practitioners. It was published open access, and there we ask a lot of questions, but we also give some structure and ideas on how to create these workshops yourself. It has different chapters where we also show or explain more of our examples, but just to give an inspiration and some ideas on how you can start your own public engagement project. Okay. Next question. How would you approach complex public engagement projects in the future?
I think for all projects of this scale, I would say just plan with enough buffer time, because there's always things that spring up out of nowhere that you didn't have planned for, and you don't want to rush through these, especially because every time that there's a collaboration ongoing, you will need time to sort out the legal questions. And we were happy that we collaborated so well with the Futurium. Ideally, I would have liked a little bit more time for that too. Give this whole thing a structure and to really know what you want to do, also what you want outcomes to be. It's always better to have this clear outlook of how or when is something successful. When would you say, when formulating a project, when would it be successful for you? So kind of creating this goal to work to. Last question.
Okay.
What would you recommend for organizing public engagement workshops like yours to other public engagement professionals?
I think it's actually starting by answering a lot of questions. And it's like a big variety of questions. Who do you want to reach? What would be a good outcome of the project? How can you reach the specific audience or audiences that you want to reach? I think there's so many questions, and you don't know. I think you don't know to need to know the answers for all of these, but at least get this kind of direction on where you want to go. And I think also be open for what's coming. I think for us it was very good to be able to change the way of the workshop over time. Even before visiting Material Futures, we started with we actually started with 90 minutes workshops in the beginning. 90 minutes was way too short. Then we set up workshops that were 8 hours. 8 hours was way too long. So we ended up with 3 hours. 3 hours was maybe a little bit too short. It could have been 3.5, maybe with a little bit of a longer break, but I think there was a good time. But if we weren't open to just test these different length, we wouldn't have known what was the right one. And don't think you have to find the right or the sweet spot right away in the first try.
And enjoy experimenting, I guess.
Yeah.